Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, February 8th, 2021. It's 7 o'clock p.m. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of St. Peter. We're meeting tonight back in the governor's room at the community center. This meeting is being held both virtually and in person. With that, would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will officially call the meeting to order. First thing up, has everyone hopefully has had a chance to take a look at the agenda? Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Noel will second.
Ed 1, Shannon 2, all in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have our minutes from the January 25th, 2021 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 6 through 9. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Carrie Johnson will make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I heard Carrie 1 and Steve 2. All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. First thing up tonight, we have a public hearing, and Todd, you're going to give us a little details about what's going on tonight with the public hearing, please.
So, Mr. Mayor, we actually have two public hearings tonight. The first is on city code modification, and then the second is on annexation by ordinance. So, the first one, we're going to proceed as normal, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And then the second one on annexation, when we get to that point, give me another ring and we'll explain a slight change that we have.
All right. So with that, our procedure for the excuse me, I lost my train of thought. For the public hearings, we will have staff and the appellant, which is in this case, and both of them is the staff, make a presentation. And if there's anyone to speak on this first one for the city code modification for the gateway overlay, if anyone wants to speak on that, they will be given time at that point. So with that being said, we will open the public hearing for city code modification for the gateway overlay regulations on Monday, February 8th, 2021 at 7:03 p.m. And Russ.
Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, Brad Baker has purchased the vacant property that's immediately south of 3rd Street from what is now the Hy-Vee store. It's at the right turn of 3rd Street. And this is the property that is south and then would be east of 3rd Street at that intersection. It has been assigned an address of 967 North 3rd Street. The property is zoned C4, Highway Service Commercial, and it is subject to the regulations of the Gateway Overlay Districts. Mr. Baker intends to build a privately financed field house at that location. And as his building plans were put together and he costed out the cost to abide by the Gateway District that as it now exists was about $28,000 according to Jesse Lager, his contractor. The Gateway Overlay Districts require an enhanced facade design and materials on the exterior walls. The walls in the Gateway District are required to be built of brick, stone, concrete panels, glass, or a stucco-like material. The use of a steel, vinyl, or aluminum siding then is regulated to be no more than 25% of any exposed facade. Again, applying those regulations to Mr. Baker's project reportedly cost an additional $28,000. Mr. Baker then had paid the fees and had submitted the appropriate application then to provide for a text amendment to the zoning code. The proposed text amendment would only require the enhanced exterior wall regulations on a facade that's exposed to a city street or park. So that was put forward to the Planning Commission. They had then made a recommendation to you. As the council had discussed that in a workshop session, there were a couple alternatives that perhaps were suggested. It was also suggested at that time by the council that in the most instances, the Gateway District regulations are both appropriate and beneficial. It was suggested that an alternative may be to allow up to 75% steel and then limiting the other enhanced to 25%, or essentially a flip-flop of the current regulations. There were suggestions that perhaps the properties facing 3rd Street could be appropriately removed from the Gateway District. Another suggestion was that there be a 2-tiered gateway regulations adopted. So that was reconsidered by the Planning Commission in December, and at this point they have recommended that you adopt the 2-tiered gateway overlay standards. The current standards with the enhanced facade on all 4 walls would be enforced on the properties east of Old Minnesota in the Northern Gateway District. The properties then west of Old Minnesota, including Hy-Vee, the Baker property, the now homeless shelter, they would have to have an enhanced facade on only the facade that's facing a street or park. There is a map on page 34 where I've hand-drawn a line kind of delineating well, what everybody knows is Old Minnesota Avenue. And then there's a draft ordinance that's been prepared for your consideration on page 35 and 36. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I guess before I mentioned that they were together, but is the applicant, I saw we had some people join us. Is there any statement that would like to be made by the applicant in this situation? Doesn't look like it. I didn't hear or see anybody. So with that,
Mr. Mayor, if I could have, I've had numerous conversations with Mr. Baker, and he's just very appreciative of the consideration and the thoughtfulness that both the Planning Commission and the council have put into this matter.
Yep, I had figured that, but I had to ask, because there's people up there. With that, the council, we have this item coming up here under new business, so if the council has questions at that point, we can do that. If there's nothing else that Russ has to add at this point, or nothing from the appellant, we will close the public hearing for the gateway overlay regulations on Monday, February 8th at 7:08 p.m. All right, next up we have another public hearing, and this one is for annexation by ordinance, and Todd is going to give us some updates.
Mr. Mayor, to get this one kicked off before Russ provides his report or before you open the hearing, we do have a typo error on the notification that was sent to property owners. So in order to make sure that we provide ample opportunity for all who wish to be heard on this, my recommendation to the council tonight is to open the hearing, to listen to the report. If there's any testimony, take that testimony, but then table this item to your next meeting on the 16th, and you do have a special meeting planned, so we can hold this hearing as a part of that, and then send a corrected virtual link to folks, so anybody that wants to be heard then could be heard that night, and then we would ask you to take action on Tuesday the 16th. That provides, again, our goal is to make sure that anyone that wants to be heard on this can be heard, and since we did have a typo in that notification, we want to make sure that we're providing ample opportunity for folks as a part of this. So it would allow them to comment or provide testimony tonight, and then again on the 16th, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, with that, we will open the public hearing for annexation by ordinance on Monday, February 8th, 2021 at 7:09 p.m. And Russ.
Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, as you're all aware, on November 9th of last year, you entered into a development agreement with St. Peter Investors LLC. The developer is constructing a 66-unit multifamily apartment complex in North Traverse Green subdivision. That development agreement obligates the City Council to provide for a sanitary sewer extension from where it currently terminates in Clark Street at Warren Park in Standard Lumber Subdivision to North Traverse Green. Bolton and Mank had designed and engineered the sewer main, which would then cross the Ben and Joanna Pell properties, as well as the Levon or Bonnie Enns property. The plans call for a 30-foot permanent easement from the Pells and a 40-foot permanent easement from the Enns, the difference due to the depth of the proposed sewer main. It would require a 25-foot then temporary construction easement on both sides of that permanent easement. The pipe, once it would be installed, would be located underground. No structures would daylight or be above the surface, and the site would be restored then to allow for the continued agricultural production upon the land. To prepare for the easements, we had John Foster Appraisals prepare the appraisals of the easements, and then we had incurred the services of Dan Wilson from Henning Professional Services to serve as a third-party negotiator of the easements. We originally offered the appraised value of the easements, and subsequent to the offer, as you're aware, at your last meeting, you did accept the temporary construction easement, the permanent sanitary sewer easement, and you entered into a memorandum of understanding with Ben and Joanna Pell for the acquisition of the requested easements at a price of $21,700. Similar offers of the appraised value have been made to the Enns interests. It is our understanding that at this point they are having an appraisal conducted and are waiting for delivery of the appraisal. In light and noting that October deadline to provide for the installation of the sanitary sewer service, and in the absence of obtaining the negotiated easements, this action to provide for the involuntary annexation of the properties has been initiated. Minnesota statute, chapter 414.033 says a municipality or municipal council may by ordinance declare land annexed to the municipality, and any such land is deemed to be urban and suburban in character or about to become so if. And then the second clause in that section was the land is completely surrounded by land within the municipal limits. An annexation action to only annex the Enns and the Bell and Joanna Pell property is not sufficient in this instance. And to package all of the lands that are currently surrounded by the city limits to allow you to exercise your ability by chapter 414 to annex the properties by ordinance, we have to essentially close that loop or include all of the properties then that would be assembled to comprise all of the lands completely surrounded by the city limits. There's a map on page 40 of your packet that shows all of those properties in mass. It does include 7 individual properties. Again, the Pell property, the Bonnie Enns property. There are 2 parcels that are owned by Nicola County. There is a parcel owned by Jim Wilson, which is essentially the homestead, and then the balance of the Wilson property, or essentially the farmland, is owned by Pell Inc., which is the Pell real estate and insurance interests. We have had Minnesota boundary adjustments pre-map this annexation to ensure that we are able to close that loop with the 7 properties, and MnDOT, who does that mapping for the Boundary Adjustments Board, has then given us communication that yes, these are the properties that are necessary to, again, essentially close that loop. There is an ordinance that's been prepared, an annexation ordinance that does annex the 7 properties. If you were to adopt that ordinance this evening or at your next opportunity, we would file that ordinance copies with Minnesota Boundary Adjustments, pay the appropriate fee, and then await notice from Minnesota Boundary Adjustments that the annexation has been appropriately been undertaken and approved by their office. If we are unable then at that point, pending annexation, to successfully negotiate the easements with the Enns interests, it would be expected that staff would recommend that you at that point begin the condemnation of the easements, again, in light of that October deadline. In this instance, on this annexation, we have negotiated a shared taxation agreement with Traverse Township. they would lose, it's been roughly calculated to be about $800 a year in tax revenue. It has been offered that the city would reimburse the township $800 per year for 2021 through 2023, or 3 individual payments of $800 per year. The agreement in your packet tonight has been prepared by your city attorney and in consultation with Township Clerk Helen Wenner. It is on their agenda tonight, and the $800 a year for 3 years are the terms that they've requested, so it's expected that they would approve that later this evening, or perhaps they've already met. We've had a good relationship with Traverse Township on the annexation of the school property and the resolution of the treatment of that gravel township road. They have not asked for shared taxation in previous agreements, including the Magner Farm, or what's now become the school site for the Traverse Green property. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay. Once again, is there anyone that would like to speak in behalf of the appellant? I can't imagine there is at this point in time, so I will open it up. Is there anyone that would like to make any public comments whatsoever? If our visitors here on the screen, if they would like to speak, just let us know and we will proceed. Seeing that we do not have anyone, we will...
Mr. Mayor, if I could?
Yep, go ahead.
It's staff recommendation that you take action to continue the hearing until February 16th at approximately 5:30.
Okay.
And in the interim, we would send a corrected notice to the property owners.
Do we do that at this point in time?
Now would be the time to do that. When we get to the agenda item for action, we'll
Right.
ask you to table with the same information.
Okay, all right. So, if there's no one else that would like to speak at this time, as was stated earlier, we will proceed on this on Tuesday, the 16th. So what we are looking for now is a motion for continuation of the public hearing concerning the annexation by ordinance. Is there such a motion?
Noel will move.
Ed'll second.
Emily will second.
All right, we got Shannon 1 and Emily 2. Do we need a roll?
Yes, sir.
Please do the roll call, Barb.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat. Aye. Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
The continuation is approved for the public hearing to February 16th at our scheduled meeting, and everything will be published and corrected at that point. All right. The
And so,
public
Mr. Mayor,
hearing,
we'll recess at 7:18.
is that the time now?
Yes,
That's what
sir.
I was just going to say. We will recess.
Thank you.
The public hearing for the annexation by ordinance on Monday, February 8th, 2020 at 7:18 p.m. Now we will move to visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing no one, we will move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins in detail on page 10 and concludes with page 11, concludes with the resolution on pages 30 and 31. Includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $10,000 to Cross Country Underground and Geldner Construction for directional boring, not to exceed value of $35,000. To Diamond Vogel for Graco Street Line Striper for $10,745. To Minnesota Ag Group for wood 15-foot mower for $18,300. To Loggers of St. Peter for a 2020 Dodge Charger for $28,461. Following license applications: temporary gambling license to the St. Peter Ambassadors for 412 South 3rd Street for March 17th, 2021. Following board appointments: to Heritage Preservation for 2021 to 2023 to Remo Alexandri. Parks and Rec Advisory Board for 2021 to 2023 to Rochelle Fuller and Haley Russell. Planning and Zoning Commission appointment from 2020 to 2022 for Benjamin Raft. Plus the following schedule of disbursements for January 21st, 2021 through February 3rd, 2021. Are there any questions or comments concerning the consent agenda? Carrie?
I have a question for Pete. He's here. On page 11, I see that for the contractors that are being considered for the boring, you provide this clause for flexibility in case there are some delays. And I guess I was just curious about that, how often that comes up, and why might we want to put a clause like this to add that flexibility? Is this particular project may get delayed, or is it the contractor, or what's the story behind that?
So what happens, council member, is that once in a while the low bidder will get a bigger project in and will mobilize to a different area. And so if we have something that we need to have organized within the next couple of weeks, we will go to the second low bidder to see if they can accommodate that. We try to be out there 30 days in front of the projects, but once in a while they don't know when they're going to get a bid and when they may have to relocate. So we want to have a little flexibility with our contractors, so if one can't do it, the other could.
Yeah, and how often does this come up where we have to do this? It just kind of depends on the competition, I'm assuming, of projects?
Yeah, it's about once a year
Okay.
that we run into it as far as timing and different projects.
All right, thank you. I was curious about that. And then I just also wanted to make a comment that it's great to see the appointments for the boards and commissions and the potential to have all of our seats on those boards and commissions filled. So just wanted to comment that I think that's great.
Pete, on the, does the second bidder, in this case Geldner, do they honor the low bid price?
That's our intention, is that we would tell them that we would ask them to do it for the low price.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, comments concerning the consent agenda? Consent agenda again appears on page 30 and 31. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Carrie Johnson will second.
Ed 1, Carrie 2. Any other questions or comments now? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Ed Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat. Aye. Councilmember Grams,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have unfinished business. And the only thing on there is the gateway overlay regulations on which we just had the public hearing. So Russ, if you have anything else to add, otherwise we will go right to questions from the council.
No, but I just add that the process was almost like they teach you, identify an issue, come up with alternatives and solutions and evaluate them and choose one. And I think that the solution in front of you tonight is very well thought out by the Planning Commission. And I do appreciate the assistance of the two council members that are on the Planning Commission in helping to communicate the tone of your previous discussion back to the commission. It was, I think I mentioned to Administrator Prafty, it was one of the best or most well organized Planning Commission meetings I think that I've had in almost 20 years, Mayor.
You know, I'm going to take offense because I was on the Planning Commission for quite a few years. And boy, we had some good ones.
Mayor, it was me.
Oh, there you go.
An outline and
Maybe that was,
thinking it through how I was going to present it. So,
maybe that was the situation. Any questions for Russ concerning the gateway overlay regulations? If not, the ordinance for the city code modification for the gateway overlay regulations appears on pages 35 and 36. Is there a motion for approval?
Noel will
So
move.
moved, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we got Steve 1 and Ed 2. Any questions now? Carrie?
I just have a comment. I was trying to refresh my memory and kind of, it sometimes helps to go back and look at the recording of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings just to see how the conversation played out and the brainstorming and the discussion. And so after kind of listening to, I think it was brought up in November, and then you talked about it a couple more meetings after that. But it, I felt really good about, I just wanted to second what Russ said. Just I felt good about the discussion and feel good about this plan and this compromise.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat. Aye. Councilmember Grams,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Ordinance is approved. Next up, we have new business, and the first thing up is the annexation by ordinance for the property, the annexation by ordinance. And with the discussion we have earlier, I will entertain a motion to table this ordinance and the discussion of it also at this time, and we will take it up again on Tuesday, February 16th. Todd?
Just as a clarification, Mr. Mayor, the staff recommendation would be to table both the annexation and the sharing agreement.
Right. I thought
Thank
I
you,
would
sir.
do them separately since they were two separate articles, so
Sure.
that's why I did it that way.
Okay.
So first up, we have the ordinance. Is there a motion to approve tabling the ordinance?
Ed will make a motion to approve tabling the ordinance.
Emily will second.
Ed 1, Emily 2. Any questions? I guess we kind of skimmed over this a little bit, but any questions as far as procedure from anyone? If not, call the roll, please, Barb.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, this would just be a voice vote.
Okay. All in favor of tabling the ordinance for discussion till February 16th, 2018, indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ordinance is tabled until that date. Next up, we have the property tax sharing agreement. And again, the same situation. We're going to table this because we can't really do one without the other. So is there a motion to table the resolution this time for the property tax sharing agreement?
Emily so moves.
Ed will second.
Emily 1, Ed 2. Any questions? All in favor of tabling the resolution for the property tax sharing agreement, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That is also tabled until our February 26th meeting. Next up, we have the revolving loan modification for River Rock Kitchen and Bakery, and Russ again.
Yep, Mayor Zeman, members of the council, you're asked to consider a 5-year extension of the balloon payment that is scheduled for the River Rock Kitchen and Bakery Economic Development Authority loan. In 2016, as Christine Montana Rasmussen, everybody calls her Montana, purchased the assets, the contracts, the name, the mixer, the kneader, the utensils, the bowls from River Rock Coffee Shop. She bought those from Tamika Bertram. You provided a $40,000 loan to partially finance a $210,000 acquisition. The loan is amortized on a 20-year schedule, but it is due and payable at the end of the 5th year, which is at this time. The interest on the loan is charged at 3.5%. Given that Ms. Rasmussen did not own the real estate in which she relocated the business, the loan is secured by a subordinate mortgage on her private residence on 4th Street. as you'll recall in October, you took action to further subordinate that loan as First National Bank then refinanced Montana's mortgage on her private residence. Again, the balloon is scheduled here in February, given the uncertainty, again, of the continued COVID situation, and provide some certainty on her monthly finances. Montana has asked that you provide for an extension of the balloon payment by 5 years. The council has regularly considered such extensions, and the EDA has established policies regarding that. And to that effect, we do have correspondence from First National Bank indicating that at this time they are unable to refinance Montana's debt or extend additional credit. And so the EDA considered the matter at their last meeting, and in light of the fact that Ms. Adams has made prepayment of each and every payment, as I like to say, as due and in the amount due and when due, the EDA then, Mayor, has recommended that the council provide for the 5-year extension requested. That concludes my report.
Okay. Questions? Brad?
Russ, are you sure that's a 20-year amortization schedule? Because in 5 years, it's paid almost half the principal down of a
I'm
of
sorry.
a 20-year. Are you sure it's gonna?
It must be a 10.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that. So, okay, yeah, because I thought at the EDA meeting you said this would retire it. This extension would retire the loan. So, okay.
Yes, actually, I believe Sally added that to the meeting, so yes.
That was my question also. I was wondering how much was going to be left on on it after you ended
Yeah,
this point.
it's a typo, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, comments? If not, the resolution extending the balloon payment of 2016 River Rock Kitchen and Bakery LLC revolving loan appears on page 58. Is there a motion for approval?
Noel will move.
Emily will
DeVos will
second.
second.
So I've got Shannon 1 and Brad 2. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Next up, we have a 2021 equipment certificate purchase, a squad car, and Chief Peters is here.
Thank you, Mayor. What you have in front of you is a resolution from the equipment certificate to purchase a police car from Loggers in St. Peter for the price of about $28,461. This is a model 2020, simply because we want to try to get our order in as quick as we can before plants start to convert over to the 2021 model year, which is usually mid-year, and that delays delivery. And so that's why we're trying to get it ordered as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay. We talked about this at a workshop here not too long ago. Anybody have any questions, comments? Carrie?
So I was looking back at the budget, and we budgeted for 3 squad cars, kind of funded in different ways. So at the previous meeting, I'm just trying to make sure I'm straight. We approved 2 squad cars, and then this is the final purchase of the 3rd, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Right. As you see in the paragraph I put in there, it's just, it's consent agenda, equipment certificate, just because of the way they are funded.
Right.
So sometimes it does get a little confusing, even for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions or comments? The resolution approving the 2021 equipment certificate purchase for a 2020 Dodge Charger Police Squad vehicle appears on page 61. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Ed 1, Steve 2. Any other questions at this time? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Bruflat. Aye.
Councilmember Grams, Councilmember Grams,
We lost him.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have a Public Works seasonal position establishment, and Mr. Moulton.
Mayor Zeman and City Council, here tonight to answer any questions that you may have from our review last week. The three positions that we're looking at, tree worker, landscape gardener, and parks ranger, we discussed last week, and we did make some modifications as recommended. As you can see, the wage has been adjusted for the parks ranger. The hours are basically about a $900 positions for both the tree worker and for the landscape gardener. The parks ranger, we expect to work about 540 hours. Our initial plan would be to hire probably multiple people to fill that 540-hour need. Tree worker, as we talked before, is going to be working with our forester and our urban forest. Our landscape gardener is going to be working downtown. We'll also be working in parks and right-of-ways. And our parks ranger, the intent is to have them work at community events, also to monitor our drop-off site and some of our major park functions during the summertime. Their main issue will be customer support, and we hope that we can accommodate a lot of our customers as we get back into things this spring. We're really establishing these three positions as seasonal. We're really looking at adopting these job descriptions so that when we do advertise with the rest of our seasonal positions, if you approve the resolution on page 73, we will include those and start working towards filling those positions. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
All right. I had to leave early the other night and read through this. I assume everybody looks like a very thorough job. Are there any questions or comments concerning these positions? Pete, I have one. This on page 64, the second to the bottom bullet point.
Yep.
Since we have you here on camera, could you please exhibit to us the difference between bend and stoop?
I'm going to have to refer that to the city administrator.
Mr. Mayor, at your next workshop, we'll have a video presentation about the difference in those two.
All right, I'm just kind of wondering.
I can't wait for that.
Any serious questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, you have Emily and Shannon. I know you're a little bit away
Oh,
from
really?
the
I can't
screen
see.
here. Yeah, it's hard
Can't
to see
see
'em.
either one. So Shannon, go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pete, I want to thank everybody for making the changes that we discussed. I think they are good changes. I did notice on page 64, under the heading continuously, the third bullet point down. I wonder if you meant to eliminate that? Or was that,
That's
that's
a cut and paste error on my part. So that relates to the first bullet point, and so we
Yep.
would eliminate the third bullet point in that.
yes,
Okay. Got it.
thank you.
That's not part of the, but it's part of the description, but it's not part of the resolution, so,
Correct.
all right,
Right, we got none of the others, so.
okay.
Yeah,
Emma?
it seemed like it was changed in the others and maybe just a remnant, so I wanted to point that out, so.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you again for making those changes. I really think that they are improvements.
Good.
Emily, you're behind the square, but evidently you had your hand up too?
Sure.
I had the same comment. I noticed the discrepancy in that language, but Shannon got it covered there, so we're good.
Good grab by both of you. Any other questions or comments? Brad?
Pete, thank you for making the changes. The one thing I did note was on the Ranger, it was missing the, and I apologize for not noticing this earlier. Similar to the Gardener, you talked about being able to speak conversational Somali or Spanish. I think for the Park Ranger, that of the 3 job descriptions was probably the more important one, since they would be having more interaction with the public. So that's on page 72 of the desirable qualifications.
Okay.
All right, any other changes or comments? Like I say, those are not on the part of the resolution, but they are do become part of it because of the descriptions. If not, the resolution for establishing seasonal positions in Public Works Department, landscape gardener, tree worker, and park ranger appears on page 73. Is there a motion for approval?
Carrie Johnson will make a
Emily
motion to
Wilson.
approve.
Okay. Carrie 1, Emily 2. Any questions or comments now? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. That concludes our new business. Next up, we have an executive session. We're going to have a resolution calling for a closed session to discuss labor negotiations, contract negotiations concerning the city, between the city and the city administrator, Prafke. We will be coming back to open session after that occurs. So at that point, we will continue on with our new business. As I said before, I was in error. It does not conclude our new business. We will coming back to finish our new business, and after that, we will go to reports and comments. So with that, and we will try to get this done for the people that need to leave and want to come back. We will try to get this done in approximately 10 minutes, and we will notify, but if you want to come back in 10 minutes, and if we're not done, we may have to extend it a little bit longer. So with that, the resolution calling for a closed session for contract negotiations between, concerning the city administrator's annual performance and the contract between the city and the city administrator, Prafke, appears on page 74. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed'll make a motion to
So moved,
approve.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, I got Steve 1, Ed 2. Any questions? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. So we will recess to closed session, and we will be doing that from closed session, and we will open back up into, come back into open session, and the time is 7:53 p.m. on Monday, February 8th, 2021, and we will go back to new business. And under new business, we have the city administrator contract modification. And Jim, do you want to say any more?
Well, no, basically is that Todd's accepted your offer of 152.5, and we've agreed to extend his contract for another 2 years. Basically, that puts him on an odd year schedule, so he's got an opportunity to deal with new council members as they come in. So I think that's basically what the council had instructed me to offer, and that is what he accepted.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions at this point? Brad?
I just want, make sure Todd knows this was a compromise. There were some of us who wanted to send him an invoice for the amount of time that he worked from home. But our legal counsel told us we couldn't do that. So this is what we settled on, so.
Anyone else?
I have a comment.
Oh, Carrie.
There was a lot of discussion, Todd, just about how much work you put in to get 4 new council members orientated, and I just want to say thank you for all the time spent. That's just been, I feel really set up for success in doing this, so thank you for that time.
Steve, did you have that feeling when you started? Yeah. All right. If there are no other questions, everyone should have gotten a copy, hopefully, of the resolution. And the resolution states for the contract modification for the position of city administrator with the changes of the contract to December 31st, 2025, and for a salary of $152,500. All the other benefits will remain the same as they were in previous contracts. With that, is there a motion to approve?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
I didn't hear who the other one was. That Brad? Brad 1, Ed 2. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember Grams,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. And thank you, Todd.
Mr. Mayor and members, thank you. It continues to be an honor and a privilege to serve the community of St. Peter. As we talk about often, things work here that don't work in other places. And so I'm very prideful of that and the trust that the council puts in me and the staff. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to, off of that, people often ask me what is different, what do you feel is different about St. Peter, and Todd, it came up the other day when we met with our legislator. I've been here 40-some years, and St. Peter's been always that time a proactive city, and that's the difference that I see. And we're in looking at other entities. And Todd, the last 23 years you've been part of that, and I appreciate all of that. And I don't think we'd be at where we are if it wasn't for yourself.
Thank you.
So with that, we will now conclude our new business. We will go to reports. And Carrie kind of mentioned this earlier. I want to thank the new members that were on the board, took the board assignments. And with that, I also want to thank the ones that have been serving and are on boards now. I believe when I added up the last time, there was like 91 people that give of their time, to serve on boards. And some of them can take quite a bit of time, some of them maybe not, but it's kind of what you want to put into it, and all of that is appreciated by our citizens. So with that, Todd, we will move to your reports.
Mayor members, I have 3 that are listed and one other one that's just really a reminder for you and the council. First of all, as you know, under state law, when we have a closed session, we're required to report on it if there's no action taken at the next one. So as you see there, we did have discussion about the utilities contract, which was in closed session, but you did come back to take action in that one. Just wanted to make sure that we close the loop. I would also like to mention that we are near conclusion on parks and streets contracts as well. The next one I'd like to mention relates to MRVT, Minnesota River Valley Transit. You have 2 members, and you share a board, a joint powers board with the city of LeSueur. Your members are council members Grams and Bruflat now. And so this is just to let people know that because of changes at the state level through the end of 2021, MRVT is able to provide free dial-a-ride fares within St. Peter and LeSueur, again, through the end of 2021. So we're very excited about that. I think it's important for all the members in the community to note that generally the state funds approximately 80% of your operations of transit. and that you have not levied taxes for transit in better than 30 years, nor has LeSueur. And so fare box and other revenues, like the ads in the back of the bus, as an example, are utilized to make up that 20%. So coming up again for the 21 year, the state is funding your 20% as well. So that's wonderful and great for users and everyone within your community and the community of LeSueur. The next one I'd like to mention is refuse and recycling. Folks should have seen or gotten one of these very recently. We put ours up on our refrigerator because it says what day is recycling day and all that kind of stuff. But on the back of it, on the non-calendar side, there's some fantastic information about single sort recycling in your Kirby. And I'm going to use my high tech and put this really up close to the camera so folks can see it. Accepted items and a long list of unaccepted items that we frequently see within the recycling. And so those accepted items can also be taken to your drop spots, which are located at the corner of St. Julian and Swift, the compost facility, some people call it the compost facility, and then up at the county shop off Sunrise. So those things that are accepted in your curbside recycling, your commingled recycling, are also accepted at those locations. And so we really want to encourage people to recycle right and not put the bad stuff in there. When you put these other things in there, it's the possibility happens that a load of recycling could be rejected, and so nothing within that semi-trailer gets recycled. They don't like pick the one thing out. They just reject it all, and it goes to the landfill. And so that's not what we want to have happen, so we'd encourage people to recycle right, and this is a great reminder of what's available. There's also great information on your website for folks as well. The last one that I'd like to mention is that, as some of you are aware, we are in the process of hiring a new hospital CEO, and Wednesday we have interviews for those 4 candidates. And I know not everyone can attend, and that's perfectly cool, but it's a great time to rethink about the strategy and the long-term plans for the hospital and look forward to meeting all of the candidates. And so I would expect, Mayor and members, that as you leave the meeting that day, that there will be consensus on the part of the commission and on the part of the council. Both bodies have to take action for a hire to be put in place. And so that might come back to the council within a week or so. Typically what happens is you come to consensus and we work with a preferred candidate and try and negotiate a contract. And once a contract is negotiated, that's when it comes back finally for commission action and then ultimately for city council concurrence under your ordinance. So if there are any questions about that, Mr. Mayor, please give me a call or let me know before Wednesday. I'm happy to answer whatever I can for you and the members. And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for you for tonight.
All right. Before we adjourn, does anyone else have anything to add, or does anyone have any questions for Todd or any other city staff? Sally, I think, is the only one here. So, Carrie.
Todd, you have an event tomorrow. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I do have an event. I do this typically yearly. I hate to say exactly, but I am speaking with the seniors group and doing a State of the City. So that will be live and in person and also online. And so that starts at 11 o'clock. So very similar to what I do if you're a Lion or a Rotarian, or sometimes on my State of the City video blog. So it's always a fun time, and frankly, they're a group that always has lots of great questions, so I love to visit and hear what questions they have and provide the answers as best I can.
So there is an opportunity for questions, and that sometimes drives the discussion, or do you have a presentation?
So, Councilmember Johnson, normally what I do is I have a PowerPoint, and so at the beginning of that, I usually have 6 or 8 items that I suggest as discussion points. And so usually groups want to hear about those, and then they have a few other things. So last time, I believe, I was with the senior group for almost 2 hours. So part of that was presentation. But most of it was answering questions, and so that's one of the favorite parts of my job is interacting with folks and hearing what they're interested in and providing them information if we can. Sometimes we don't know the right answer, but then we go and try and figure it out.
Well, I hope you have a good virtual or in-person crowd.
Yeah, I know they have some folks registered, so there'll be more than 2.
Okay,
so
that's good. That. Thank you.
Do you do this for juniors and sophomores too?
I will do it for just about anybody that calls, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
So these are adult seniors?
Adult seniors through the rec department.
All right.
Yes.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Ed will make a motion to adjourn.
Carrie Johnson